Who's looking good right now? Well, I would say that you're looking good in case you needed a lift today. So you're here probably wanting to know who's good in testing and what the pecking order is. Well, okay. Yes, I know, it's just testing, bro. By the way, that shirt goes extinct in 3 days in case you wanted it. But there are still some clues, especially if you track two things: lap counts and tyre allocations. I know you might be yawning right now and thinking you're really going that granular. Well, it's a lot more substantial than just looking at lap times, am I right? What Pirelli tends to do before each race, and thankfully before testing sessions, is talk about tyres and what they are going to use. And this week's allocation might tell you all you need to know as to what the teams are chasing in the final 3 days of testing, because we have a lot more data than we usually do when it's just the standard 3. We've had 9 days to pass through. And if you like this format, why don't you drop a like, and that means I'll carry this on over to next year. But last week in Bahrain, we only had the C1, C2 and C3s, plus a token intermediate. That was odd, but okay. No C4 or C5s to be seen. Well, that might have been down to the nature of this extra official test. You're learning whether the car behaves like the wind tunnel said it would, whether it cools itself, or the gearbox is happy, which in the case of the Aston Martin it clearly wasn't. Them especially finding out they've got some ways to go. And if a team went with a buttload of C3s, then that was pretty much them saying, we want our data to be as consistent as possible. You really didn't see many teams going for C1s or C2s, except for a couple of outliers. Those being McLaren and Aston Martin. On base what happened around Barcelona, that did not surprise me at all, because they were aiming to just get the mileage down and have a tyre that simply would not melt on them. Just that means they could get that meaningful data. Yeah, okay, that's cool to know, but come on, that was so literally last week, Law. We don't care about that, we care about right now. And there's also the lap count to consider before day one of the final test. As of now, Ferrari and Haas have breezed past Mercedes and gotten monster mileage, their cars seemingly letting them do whatever they want. If you can run, you can learn, and if you can't run, well, you're stuck guessing, like Mercedes were after the first Bahrain test. But let's talk about this allocation right now, because the C4 and C5 tyres, they will not be on the Mercedes at all the next few days. None. They've got 18 C3s, 4 C1s and 2 C2s. That's a team choosing to keep their second week as controlled as possible. Your immediate thought? Sandbagging. Maybe Max was right after all. But it could be something less flattering. That they probably don't trust that they finished last week with a clean understanding of their car. The kind of choice you make when you think you can afford to do it, because you're not worried about being fundamentally slow, which is perfectly valid because you can't just throw out the shakedown because they were absolutely bulletproof when they just had a solid car. It's just a problem when they start to really amp it up to see if they can go all out. They can't yet, so they're not even going to try. So the word I would use to describe Mercedes right now is not dominant or superior or sandbagging. I would say they're confused. And confusion is the real enemy here because they started off so strong and look where they are right now. They are certainly not the favourites at the moment. Red Bull has something similar going on. They've chosen 18 C3s as well and 2 sets of C4s and no C5. No C1 either, actually. And a couple of C4 sets, unlike Mercedes, does give them the option to do some low fuel reference runs, but the absence of C5s means that they don't really care about the softest compound as of now. Now that can either tell you supreme confidence or supreme discipline, that they could easily be tempted to do a glory run because, well, it would just stamp down authority on the Red Bull Ford powertrain in its first ever season as a fully completed OEM. Because people will see through it. We'll just look at it and go, oh wow, that's a C5, okay, never mind. Couple that with their quite decent lap time, they are clearly going to go for longer stints. They are thinking about race runs and whether or not their drivability is up to snuff over the course of an entire Grand Prix. And that for Max Verstappen is the ideal solution instead of just going glory chasing in qualifying where it may not be quite as important. Because again, you need to get the start line down. Just refine procedures, so that means their drivers, Max and Isaac, have something to work with. That's all they gotta do. Red Bull's priority this year is all about drivability. Ferrari sits in the middle because they have slightly more C4s to hand than Red Bull, but they also have no C5s, which means that they are willing to explore more meaningful data when it comes to turning up the wick a little more, low fuel runs, but they're also not going glory hunting. They are not chasing absolute attention. And that is something I think they will sustain for quite a while. Fred's been like this for many months now. They're saying, oh, we don't really want attention. We just want to get on with the job. It's make it good that no one's paying attention to us. Well, I'm paying attention to you, Freddy boy. The C4 is a soft tyre, though. It's a tyre you can actually learn from in a decent race stint. You can at least do 12 laps with it. So combine that with their massive mileage, and they're going to use this test to lock in race stint behaviour, and then just do enough low fuel to calibrate the error with new parts most likely. Make sure everything is going well, which it has been thus far. This is a team that exudes confidence right now, and I'm really not worried about this team at all. They seem to be the most sane organisation out of all of the 11 teams competing this year. And it seems like, based on rumours and reports, that the FIA is approving all of the brand new parts that Ferrari are bringing to the table, so that B-spec car may actually come to fruition after all. Are they the title favourites? It's too early to say, but they are certainly looking likely to score actual wins in 2026, at least at the beginning. So if you're a member of the Tifosi, this is a very, very good sign, and also, in the Ferrari camp, is Haas. They look really, really interesting, don't they? Because on the lap count chart, they are second only to their suppliers Ferrari. Over 780 laps. That is bonkers for F1's smallest team. And it really tells you they are looking for absolute execution, something that really dogged them in 2025. They've got a sensible spread of tyres, and again, no C5. That reads like a team that's trying to behave like grown-ups, all amidst the extra pressure from America with Cadillac. They might have decided the best way to punch above their weight is just turn testing into a reliability exercise, then arrive in Melbourne with a car that responds predictably to setup changes. In short, they are making sure there are no surprises here, which Komatsu-san has talked about plenty in 2025, as well as the idea of energy deployment being the thing that could win races or get big points. So what I expect the VF26 to be right now is a car which is attuned to what the drivers want and is predictable. That is something that could be ideal if Haas wishes to contend to equal their result in 2018 and be 5th in the Constructors. Right now, this is looking like a really solid bet. I don't think Williams are the best of the midfield right now. Haas seem to be taking that accolade from them. And speaking of Williams, they are going the complete opposite of the last few teams I've mentioned. They are going balls to the wall. They are looking really, really aggressive because, well, I mean, they have to. These guys, for this test, are the soft tyre kings. 6 sets of C4 and 2 sets of C5. No C1s and barely any C2s. No doubt, they're going for performance runs, and given they've got the second lowest lap count thus far, they really need to compress their programs in terms of real-world running. They've done plenty of virtual testing, but ideally, you want this to be actually seen in reality. And when you don't have the luxury other teams have had, you chase high information density. And it's something I think James Vowles really gets his jollies off of. And also, soft tyres can give you an understanding about what the weaknesses of your car are much quicker than hard tyres. They really show you if you are lacking in a certain department because you are expected to be absolutely ballistic with these tyres to get the most out of them. So that might be it. Williams might be thinking, hey, this FW48 is pretty good. It's been really reliable. What's the catch? And these C4s might be able to give them an understanding as to what it might be. And then they've got 2 C5 sets of tyres, which might mean they'll go for glory runs, sort of what they did last year, when everyone was looking at Carlos's time and thinking, wow, they're the fastest? Yet they ended up the 5th fastest team, which was not bad for Williams, but it certainly wasn't the same picture we got from testing, so this is just a repeat of that, really. So don't get hyped yet, fans of Williams. They have still got a lot of work to do in terms of finding data, but they've certainly done a lot more data finding than Aston Martin right now have done. They are going aggressive because they simply have no choice but to. Last week was all about the harder tyres. This week, they've gone all soft, because let's be real, they have not got much track time. They built a second week plan that minimises variables. 1 tyre for most of the work, that's a C3 for the data, plus all those soft sets for a reality check. That's the kind of program you run when you're behind schedule, and only now starting to be able to turn up the heat with the Honda power unit. You want to leave testing with some kind of story of the car before Melbourne, so they might be forced to do a more honest performance read. We might actually get a clearer picture as to where this Aston Martin car is right now than with many of the other teams, because, well, they have to show us, they have to show the world, they have to show their sponsors, their suppliers, and Papa Stroll, because I can't imagine his patience is wearing thickly right now. It could be really, really thin. Honda's sweating buckets. They know what job they've got to do. They know that right now, they are the weakest link within this AMR26 chain. And like with Williams, if you don't have much time to try and get a good read before the first few races and you're really stuck within that grind, you need to find answers quickly to understand where your development direction is going to be. It's clear this team's not in a good place right now, substantially, statistically, and emotionally. Then there's Alpine. They look pretty spicy, actually. No one's really talking about them, but they could easily be back in the points again. They certainly look a lot better than they were last year. Their runs are looking more performance-focused than Haas, but not quite as aggressive as Williams as Aston Martin, so here's a bit of a guess. They might be using this test to sort out qualifying behaviour, either because their car is a bit sensitive on low fuel, or because they're trying to improve warming up the tyres. 2 sets of C5 isn't that much, but it might be enough for them wanting to know how their car behaves when it's a bit peaky. It's less panicked than either Williams or Aston because their lap tally is considerably higher than theirs. And for their first season with Mercedes power, that's not too shabby actually. Their integration pipeline has actually been really good, and it's worth crediting. Okay, with Cadillac, where are they? What are they trying to prove right now? Well, they are very much trying to lay down foundations, but they do have 1 set of C5 tyres for maybe going for a cinematic all-guns-blazing glory run for the American audiences, to show that we can actually figure something out with qualifying, and to give their bods back at base some meaningful data when it comes to Q1, because I really don't see them escaping Q1 all that often. At least right now. And even Dan Taurus, the head of TWG, admits that points may be lacking for a while. This could either be on the final day for the cameras, or, again, a controlled qualifying simulation. When a new team does that, it's about giving the whole organisation a clean low-fuel run to pin your hopes off of, to see how the car behaves when it's going to be at its lightest and most nimble. That could shape development decisions for many months in their first year. You gotta hand it to Cadillac. Like with Andretti before the name change and General Motors really backed them, I really didn't think they were a bunch of no-hopers. I respected every single decision they have made, and it's still the same today. They are acting like adults here. They are actually thinking about what could this car actually do, its fullest potential across a wide range of rubber. So props to you, Cadillac. You're doing the business here. You're really trying to impress the hardcore fans and the mainstays of Formula One, so props to you. Kudos. As for Audi, well, I think they're going for the endurance side of things, and considering their success at Le Mans, that makes perfect sense. They are thinking about conservative run plans. They are really leaning hard on the C2s. And when you couple that with their improving reliability, and yes, they started off the Barcelona shakedown really shakily, they did improve a lot over the Bahrain first test, and this just might be a continuation of them checking off the long list of things they had to do after Barcelona. It wouldn't surprise me if they're going for a full race simulation with running these C2s, and it might tell me that their baseline of the R26 is something that they deem acceptable, that they've got something that's good enough for Melbourne. It's just trying to find that little bit more to maybe have a better chance of getting into Q2, or maybe squeaking a singular point if they have something that can go the distance in Australia. Everyone can go all out and do a lap. Fewer teams can make those tyres survive, and if Audi's spending this week on looking after their tyres, it might mean they're aiming at durability when it comes to these compounds, meaning that they could play around with strategy a little more instead of what they were last year when they were sort of a little bit aimless when it came to strategies. This isn't electric from Audi, but it's certainly solid. It really fits with their game plan of 2030. Then there's McLaren. They look fascinating, especially as the defending champions, because last week they really leaned hard into the C2s, but this week they're looking more at performance questions, while still keeping a bit of a safety net for longer runs. Because when you look to Barcelona, the shakedown, their lap count McLaren's was absolutely shocking, around the same as Audi. Only Cadillac and Aston Martin had less laps than McLaren. Cut to right now, their lap tally is right behind Mercedes, Haas and Ferrari. They really improved in the first week of Bahrain. They certainly look a lot more composed, and now they've actually got something in which to chase, and that is just thinking a little bit more about performance. Their baseline is down pat. They are clearly, I think right now, in the front-running pack. I don't think they've fallen off, but they might be right now at the back of the front-running pack. But I don't think they're panicking anymore. I think they've got something which it might be a slow burn like 2024 was. They weren't the best at the beginning of that year, but after that Miami upgrade, they really rocketed up, didn't they? So maybe with their tyre choices, they're thinking about the aero and what it's like in low fuel runs and just trying to see what they're like in qualifying, because that could make the difference. As well as what their cars are like in corners, as well as the balance issues potentially. Yeah, they're continuing to find their feet after the pain from Spain. Racing Bull's spread this week is broad enough to try some performance, but it's still anchored in the middle of the road, mainly trying to get solid mileage for the power unit, as well as themselves and the team. They could maybe use the second test to do 1 or 2 low fuel runs and then spend the rest validating setup for the race. It's not glamorous, but they're certainly doing their part for the brand new original engine manufacturer. And it might be a situation where, like last year, they were in contention for some substantial points quite often, so it might be a case of them wanting to continue that trend. Fair enough, looks okay. After all of that, I think we can break these teams down into 3 different categories. There's the librarians, there are the hunters, and then there are the builders. First, the librarians. They want clean data more than anything. Mercedes and Red Bull, oh, they're here all right. Ferrari, I think, are also in there too, albeit not as strongly. Their bet, those 3, will be about the fundamentals being good enough that the best use of time is reducing uncertainty, not chasing a number. Then there are the hunters. They're going for pure performance, the complete opposite of the librarians. And Williams, they are leading the charge here. Alpine also. And Aston, well, they have to. They have no other choice. Hunters are hunting for answers to a particular problem. Finally, there are the builders. They're still laying the foundations. Audi fits like a glove here, even though they are not slow by default. Cadillac is here, yep. Possibly McLaren too, but less so now going into this week. They just want to make sure that the car works well with the tyres without that actual machine becoming a bit of a diva. They want it to be reliable and dependable, meaning they can be flexible with their strategies and something of which they can then develop from there. So we might not expect fireworks from these teams in the beginning few races, but come the middle of the year, or maybe the end of the year, we could see something really, really mighty in their respective competitions. So yeah, the first test was something that proved to us all that, hey, these cars are a lot more reliable than we thought, as well as a couple of glaring issues, such as the fact that we're not seeing the final form of fuel, as well as that whole start line chicanery. How long do these teams actually need to rev up their engines, spool up? I have no idea what's going to happen there. And then this second week will all be about performance tweaking. That will be the main mission here, to see where their cars lie come the first round. I am really excited about this because this is a lot more data than we usually get, so it might give us a clearer picture. And given this is a brand new regulation cycle, that is very much appreciated. But you're probably wanting me to give you a bit of prediction as to where the teams are right now, so okay, I'll do that for you because I like you. But I will be very clear here. There is still one whole test session to go. It's starting right now as we speak, so there are 2 conditions here that you must, well, consider. A, whether the team or not thinks they've got a good baseline car, and 2, whether or not the team believes they've got a rocket ship in their hands or a bit of a shitbox. And yeah, last place, Aston Martin, duh. Because the mileage gap is just too brutal to ignore. Their allocation change for week 2 is all about playing catch-up and maybe turning the Honda engine up to something closer to the rest of the field. But until they've actually stacked laps and have had no dramas, it's really hard to argue they're in a championship position rather than just a building arc with their new work supplier. Then in 10th, there's Cadillac. Their allocation shape is foundational, with lower mileage than other teams. That combination usually means the car is still being taught how to be a race car, and for a new team, perfectly reasonable. It's a perfectly smart plan. It's not an exciting one, but fair enough. And it really does teach you they are trying to understand Formula 1 as a whole. They are not here to suck the teat of the fact that Formula 1 is popular right now. They want to be taken seriously here, and I really applaud them for doing that. So right now, instead of hunting for championships or championship points, they just want to understand what it takes to even be in the championship. I wouldn't call them a lost cause in their first year, but I'm certainly not thinking they're going glory hunting right here, even if it is really tempting with that one set of C5s. In 9th, we've got Audi, because I'm not really seeing anything spectacular here, but what I am seeing is something that is becoming increasingly more dependable. They are really looking at what it takes to be good in a race, rather than the race to the line in qualifying. So considering that I'm an Audi stan for 2026, that is really, really encouraging. But it really does suggest to me that even though they might have a baseline underneath them, they might just want to refine it even more so they know it like the back of their hands, basically. So yeah, just finishing races reliably, that'll do. And then in 8th right now, we've got Williams, because like with Aston Martin, their low lap count really brings them down the order, but it does have the potential to go right back up to the top again, or at least at the top of the middle, should they be able to get things down and get some really good answers from their clearly aggressive run plan, the most aggressive out of any of the teams. Because even though they missed out on the shakedown, their first Bahrain test was excellent in terms of running, and their soft end allocation this week is them wanting to really understand their car and forcing it to the bitter end. The intent looks ambitious, but it's not substantial enough yet to be like 5th or something like that. Racing Bulls, they take 7th. Healthy mileage and disciplined tyre choices, they feel like a consistent points team rather than a podium threat. Not much else to say there, really. 6th, I peg Alpine. Again, like with Racing Bulls, they've got some good mileage, but they're slightly more performance curious. This suggests to me that Alpine have actually got a car that they're pleased with, that it's a marked improvement over the A525, but now they want to slightly lean on the aggression side of things, as in just really go a little bit further to see whether or not they could be genuine points contenders. They've got something where they are back in the midfield. They are not going to be at the bottom of the pack, I think, at least for now. We've still got a whole season to consider. But yeah, I'm really curious about this team. But that might not be enough to eclipse the likes of Haas. I think they could really be solid for 5th place. Best of the rest, right now, is perfectly reasonable. Because they've got a car which is looking really, really handy. It looks quite well developed. And it's a car that has just been banging out those miles. Again, second only to Ferrari. That is something we cannot ignore. They have been more bulletproof than Mercedes, I'll come out to this team. And it helps that their tyre plan is looking pretty robust. Then I've got McLaren, as I touched upon earlier, in 4th. Really? You've got McLaren in 4th? Well, yeah, their mileage has been improving, but it has been the weakest out of the front-running pack as of now. Yes, the actual tally is slightly higher than Red Bull Racing, but in terms of the trials and tribulations that Zach Brown and Andrea Stella's team and Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have had to endure, there's still a little bit of guesswork left to do, but it certainly has improved since the Barcelona shakedown. It's just got a little bit more ways to go. The original baseline that other teams might have had the luxury of, McLaren won't necessarily afford it, because they knew that the power unit was going to be a struggle. I can't justify putting them in the top 3 as of now, but they still have the potential of being race winners. They are still in the mix in that regard. Just right now, I don't think they are in the best place to be defending their titles. 3rd is Mercedes, and that's down to their lower first Bahrain test mileage. Their run plan for this week is not about performance whatsoever. It hints to a lingering question that they've got that they're still chasing. They're still correlating, making up for lost time due to the reliability issues they had with Antonelli especially, as well as red flags with the balance of the car. Then, in 2nd place, I've got Red Bull Racing. Their conservative tyre choices plus decent mileage is what you do when you don't need to prove anything, and you're focused on race stints, and that's where the points and wins are. And first, as of now, obviously, Ferrari, because their story in pre-season testing has been the cleanest. They've got the most mileage under their belt. Their lap times have actually been fairly good. There's been no major reliability issues, no major incidents. Yes, Lewis and Charles have had their issues with drivability on occasion, but they are being ironed out steadily, and they're bringing in upgrades fairly consistently, what with the front wing and the floor. There may be more to come in Australia. It could be a hugely different car. And that amount of C4 tyres means that they want to push the envelope a little bit more, but not go crazy with the C5s. They are not delusional, Ferrari. They are being very, very measured here. They don't want attention. But quite frankly, they have been getting all of the attention in the last few days. So yeah, I'm going to say it. This is championship level behaviour. Now let me make this clear. This is not my final pecking order, folks. We might see cars stuck in the pits or crashing out on circuit, derailing their plans in this second test. But if you just want at least a snifter as to where I think everybody's at, I hope you are satisfied. So again, subscribe to the channel for when the final predictions drop. And in the meantime, you can head on over here for some more Ladderman yapping, which you might be liking if you got to the end of this video. I'll see you over there.